Step 5 of practical preparedness, the 5 steps to stay alive and thrive. This is the final step. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. Hope you enjoyed this mini-series. The first part of this, step 5, is identifying the factors that statistically kill the most and injure the most. And what we find is, at least in America, is that disease states, health, is the number one factor. And that goes for most people. And so your health needs to be a large focus if you want to live longer, stay alive, and thrive, so that you don't have to suffer needlessly or die. So when we talk about this particular action of staying healthier, it involves a whole range of subjects. I've done videos on this before, and so we'll do a very brief outline here in some of the areas of health, including clean food and water. Make sure you have enough nutrients, good sleep, reduction in stress, and you pretty much get the picture. Just don't do things that are over the top. A lot of risk-taking, if you will. If you do drugs, stop doing drugs. They could be legal drugs or illegal drugs. And so the factors that kill us. The other part is, besides our health, it's going to be accidents. Accidents are a pretty big one as well. It's definitely not in the first couple of ranking of how we die, but it definitely is in there in the top 10, and also is a large part of how we get injured is through accidents, car wrecks, slip and falls, a lot of those kind of things. And of course, there's also a category of just doing things that are just, once again, over the top. And I'm not saying you should live a sedentary life, by no means. You should be active, but sometimes, jumping out of planes, especially if you're not trained well, or going over 150, 200 miles per hour on a motorbike, or doing crazy things, while fun in the moment, especially if you're young, and I will have to say I've done my share of things that were stupid, that you increase your chances of death or injury exponentially. And so is it worth the risk? Is it worth the longevity of your life or the ability to do other things down the road? So those factors need to be looked at. And one of the ways that you can deal with these factors of threats that kill and injure us is to have a plan to mitigate them. So planning options. This is the second part. This gives us more flexibility and increases our chances of survivability. And so having a plan is obviously, first of all, is through identification of what we need a plan for and giving us a full range of options that are viable. A part A, a part B, a part C, having multiple, a primary, secondary, tertiary, however you want to look at it. But having a plan is usually not just okay, if we can't do this, then we're going to do this. It's not sometimes just that simple. There could be a lot of reasons that you'd have to have many, many multiples of avenues as an egress option instead of just having one backup. So planning is a big one, and this should be taken seriously on a lot of levels, because if you're talking about how are you going to overcome a situation such as maybe it's like a natural phenomenon, maybe a tornado, maybe you just live in a tornado alley and you have a tornado that typically comes in your area once or twice a year. Well, do you have a shelter? Where are you going to go when this thing hits? Is your house built so they can withstand it? Do you have things put back, as we talked about in previous videos in this mini-series, to make at least temporary repairs to the home? So planning goes a long way to, to get ahead of the situation so that you can actually be on top of the situation when it happens, and so you can recover that much faster. And the last part of this step 5 is going to be lifestyle choices. And if you need to make changes, that's included here. It starts with awareness. It talks about being organized and how we interact and how we actually manage to go about doing the things we do. So how we interact with the environment is critical in a lot of ways, because it's the means of how we get into a problem sometimes, or how we get out of it. just as how we go about doing things in terms of our mindset in particular. Are we there to actually be successful, or are we there just because we're going through the motion, because we were expected to be there, and to just try to fumble through what we're trying to do, even though we're not really there with a lot of purpose and we don't have a lot of vigor behind us. We're not moving with actual once again purpose, because we don't have any focus, as we talked about in the previous video, step 4. So step 5 is just basically looking at, in our life, the things that happen to us on a regular basis and the people around us that could be very potentially deadly and or cause injury, and how we can mitigate those through planning, and how we can make lifestyle choices that will actually better us through that planning stage to keep us away from those threats. Because if we can avoid them, and or have ways to get around them, then we don't have to incur the wrath of being a victim of them. And so hope you enjoyed this mini-series, and feel free to let me know what you think about this. If you would like to have content like this in the future. Thank you for your support, and I hope everyone is well. Thank you.